Welcome back to Last Moments. Today we are taking another look at TikTok's famous creators and the very last videos they ever shot. From a skydiving vlogging obsession that made a TikToker forget her parachute to another creator's insane rooftop jump onto a trampoline that ended in the worst way possible. It was August 20th, 2022. The winter morning was cold in Queenstown, New Zealand. Tourists filled the streets wearing jackets, while buses traveled between hotels and adventure parks. Many people had come to enjoy the region's winter attractions before the weekend ended. Saskia Renwick was 26 years old and worked as a fashion designer for a small clothing company in the city. She also shared her daily life on TikTok, where her growing audience earned her extra income through the clothes she promoted. The extra money helped pay for her luxury holiday. She had recently ended a relationship and hoped the trip would give her a fresh start. Before leaving, she told her followers she would post updates every day from New Zealand. There's a version of heartbreak that makes you chase documentation. You want to fill the emptiness with content, with engagement, with proof that something is happening. Saskia was escaping a breakup by turning her escape into content. She arrived on Friday afternoon and checked into her hotel. That evening, she attended a party before returning to her room. Before going to bed, her ex sent a message asking if they could talk. She didn't reply. The next morning, she woke early for her solo skydive, hoping the jump would help clear her mind. Saskia had completed the required training earlier that year and earned her skydiving license, allowing her to jump without an instructor. She packed her phone, spare batteries, memory cards, a helmet-mounted camera, and a wrist-mounted action camera. She secured the cameras before uploading a short video, telling her followers the biggest video would be posted later that day when she returned. At the airfield, staff gave the full safety briefing, checked Saskia's license, inspected her equipment carefully, and reviewed the complete jump plan before she boarded a small aircraft with other licensed skydivers. While everyone waited to board, one licensed skydiver quietly decided not to jump after admitting he wasn't feeling confident about the conditions. Saskia watched him step aside, smiled to herself, and continued toward the aircraft. As the plane climbed higher, she recorded short clips inside the cabin, filming the clouds, the open door, and the people nearby. When the aircraft reached the correct height, she completed her final equipment check, moved to the open door, and exited on her own. She dropped into freefall as air rushed past. One camera faced Saskia, while another showed the ground below. She turned the wrist-mounted camera between herself, the mountains, the lakes, the clouds, and the land beneath her. She kept filming different views as the ground came closer. The normal time to deploy the parachute was approaching, but she continued recording for a few more seconds, focused completely on filming and losing track of her altitude. While moving the camera between herself and the scenery below, she failed to notice how quickly she was losing height. The safe deployment altitude passed before she checked her altimeter. Realizing she was far too low, she immediately pulled the deployment handle. The deployment bag came out, followed by the parachute lines. The canopy started unfolding, but there was not enough height left for it to fully inflate, and it could not slow her descent enough. I cannot emphasize this enough. Your altimeter is more important than anything you're trying to film. She struck the ground with tremendous force before the parachute fully opened. The impact broke several bones, caused severe internal injuries, and resulted in major head trauma despite her helmet. She died at the scene. Ground staff ran toward her with first aid equipment while another staff member called emergency services. Other skydivers were kept away as the landing area was secured. Emergency crews confirmed Saskia had died from her injuries at the scene. Investigators later found no fault with the aircraft or her skydiving gear after reviewing the recordings, inspecting the parachute and emergency equipment, and speaking with witnesses. They concluded she had lost altitude awareness while filming and deployed her parachute too late for it to fully inflate before impact. Her cameras were kept as evidence, and the footage was never released publicly. Her family later asked for privacy while friends and followers flooded her social media with messages of shock and condolence. The message from her ex remained unanswered. Now, I might be a superstitious person, but to me, those felt like warning signs. A message from her ex, then another skydiver backing out on the same day. Maybe it's just a coincidence, but I'd probably take that as a sign not to jump. Now, this next TikToker also jumped for the camera. But unlike Saskia, his jump never involved a parachute. It was September 9th, 2020. The afternoon was warm in Birmingham, England. Builders worked nearby, while a large construction site stood closed behind tall metal fences and warning signs. Peregrine Ashwell was 24 years old and worked in a factory loading heavy boxes every day. Online, many people knew him as the parkour monkey because of his fast, fearless stunts. Parkour started as a hobby, but quickly became his passion, and he wanted people to know his name. He later opened a TikTok account and began posting videos of dangerous jumps across walls, rooftops, and abandoned buildings. His follower count grew with every risky stunt he uploaded. I think hobbies become dangerous when they become more about attention than enjoyment. For Peregrine, every viral video pushed him to take an even bigger risk. One afternoon, he tried a backflip close to the edge of a rooftop while a friend recorded him. His foot missed the landing by only a small amount. His body tipped toward the edge, but the friend standing beside him grabbed his arm before he could fall. The clip spread across TikTok within days. Thousands of people watched it and shared it, many calling it the closest escape they had ever seen. His page grew much faster after that. Bigger numbers brought bigger expectations. Simple jumps no longer brought the same attention, so he started searching for places that looked more dangerous than before. A year later, Peregrine and a friend went to a construction site that was closed to the public. Tall fences surrounded the property, and warning signs were fixed to the gates about falling hazards, unfinished floors, and people entering without permission. They climbed over the fence instead of using the locked entrance. Inside, the building was only partly finished. Several floors had no walls, steel bars stuck out from fresh concrete, and wooden boards covered some open spaces. Loose gravel, dust, broken bricks, and small pieces of concrete lay across many walking paths. The friend stayed behind with a phone to record while Peregrine climbed higher through the unfinished structure.
Now remember, every locked fence is there for a reason. Every warning sign exists because someone learned the hard way. But when you're chasing views, a locked fence can start to look like just another obstacle.
He walked along a narrow concrete beam on the 5th floor of the unfinished building, about 55 feet above the concrete ground, with no handrails on either side. He crossed one beam, then another, before reaching a gap between two unfinished sections of the building. He stepped back to get more speed, ran forward, and jumped. His leading foot landed on loose concrete dust and small stones on the beam, and his shoe slid forward instead of gripping. His other foot found no solid support near the edge. Both feet slipped away almost together, and he couldn't grab the beam in time. He plunged nearly 55 feet through the open center of the building, smashing into exposed steel bars and concrete floor edges before crashing onto the concrete ground below. The friend immediately called emergency services, while people on the street below rushed toward the building to help. Paramedics arrived within minutes and began treatment right there before taking Peregrine to the hospital. Despite their best efforts, he died that evening from the severe injuries caused by the fall. Police investigators found that the construction site had been properly secured with locked gates, warning signs, and safety barriers that had all been completely ignored.
They also confirmed the stunt was being filmed for social media at the time.
Officials later reminded the public that unfinished buildings contain hidden dangers, including loose surfaces, open edges, weak flooring, and falling hazards that cannot always be seen clearly on camera. Peregrine died in a building that tried very hard to keep him out. The next person believed he understood water the way Peregrine understood rooftops. He was wrong about that too. It was July 21st, 2021. The afternoon was sunny on the coast near Gold Coast, Australia. Small boats moved across the water while people rented jet skis and watched others ride across the waves. Quentin Winterbourne was 33 years old and worked for a design company. Outside work, he made social media videos that often brought new customers to the business. Quentin was engaged, and his wedding was only 2 months away. He and his fiancée had already booked the venue, ordered the rings, and sent invitations to family and friends. His bachelor weekend was held early because it matched the week he was on leave from work. His closest friends came along because they had known each other since childhood. They had spent many years riding dirt bikes, climbing buildings, jumping into rivers, and trying risky stunts with cameras pointed at them. Quentin had ridden jet skis many times before. He understood how to control one at high speed and often tried to impress people by making sharp turns and sudden spins while someone recorded him. His friends always called him the star of the group because he usually did the biggest stunt first.
Experience at something does not mean experience at the extreme version of it. Quentin had ridden jet skis many times, I get it. But riding a jet ski in calm water and riding one while attempting stunts in rough water are not the same skill.
That afternoon, the group rented powerful jet skis from a local rental company. Everyone received life jackets and listened to the safety rules before leaving the dock. The workers told them to stay away from other riders, avoid dangerous tricks, and slow down whenever the water became rough. Quentin also wore the engine cutoff lanyard required by the rental company. His friends followed behind him with waterproof action cameras fixed to their helmets and another camera attached to his jet ski. They spent the next 20 minutes filming several takes of fast riding, quick turns, and water spraying into the air. After reviewing the footage, Quentin felt the clips looked too ordinary. He wanted something bigger for the final video. He moved farther into open water where larger boat wakes had formed after several boats passed through the area. Picking up speed, he aimed straight toward one of the biggest wakes, keeping the throttle open as the jet ski launched into the air before landing hard on the next wave.
And this is where deception comes in. What looks like a harmless ripple from a distance can quickly become a wall of water at high speed.
As it landed, Quentin made a sharp turn while still traveling fast. The hull dug into the water, hooking and becoming unstable before the jet ski rolled violently onto its side. Quentin was thrown into the water while still close to the machine. Before he could clear it, the heavy bow struck him in the head. Moments later, the engine cut out as the safety lanyard pulled free. His friends stopped immediately and rushed toward him. One called emergency services while another kept his head above the water to stop him drifting with the waves. Other riders nearby also came over to help until rescue crews arrived by boat. Rescuers stabilized him in the water before carefully lifting him onto the rescue boat. Paramedics began treatment as soon as they reached him and took him back to shore as quickly as possible. Quentin had suffered catastrophic head injuries after being struck by the jet ski. Despite every effort to save him, he was pronounced dead a short time later. Investigators later ruled the cause of death to be fatal blunt force head trauma sustained during the crash. Investigators later said the crash happened because of excessive speed, attempting a stunt over a boat wake, and making a sharp turn while landing in rough, choppy water. They reminded riders that action videos filmed for social media are never worth risking a life over.
The wedding was 2 months away. His friends were holding cameras when the jet ski hit him. The next person did not have friends who understood the danger. She had a boyfriend with a camera.
It was July 23rd, 2020. The afternoon was bright in Warsaw, Poland. Cars moved through the streets while people walked below tall apartment buildings and office blocks. The sky was clear, and many people were outside with phones. Serafina Lindquist was 27 years old. She worked as a model and had built a large following on social media through dance videos and brand partnerships. When she was a teenager, her hair caught fire during a commercial after she moved too close to an open flame. She suffered burns to part of her scalp and spent months recovering before returning to modeling. Surviving that accident only made her more confident taking risks in front of the camera. I think that people who have survived one dangerous experience often do not become more cautious. They become more confident until life gets back at you. At 18, she and two close friends started a dance group. They first shared videos on YouTube, but few people watched. A few years later, they joined TikTok, where their dance videos reached thousands of people and eventually attracted sponsorships from major brands. Most days, she was either filming adverts or another dance challenge. Their group became known for recording in risky locations, especially on rooftops with city skylines behind them. They had filmed on similar rooftops many times without problems, and those videos consistently attracted the most views. On that day, Serafina and her boyfriend planned another dance challenge before sunset. They chose the flat roof of a 6-story apartment building. A friend who lived there had let them onto a maintenance roof normally closed to the public because it gave a clear view of the city skyline. They reached it through a service door their friend unlocked for them. They carried a small speaker, a phone, and a camera. Her boyfriend stayed on the same roof and stood several feet away with the camera to record the whole dance. They tested the music and counted down before recording started. To make the skyline look larger behind them, they climbed over a low parapet onto a narrow maintenance ledge, only about 30 inches wide. Serafina stood close to the edge because it gave the best view of the city. The dance went well at first, and she followed each move just like they had practiced many times before.
Personally, I can't imagine dancing on top of a rooftop. That's a whole different level for me. But hey, no judgment. If that's what makes them feel alive, then that's their choice. Until something goes wrong.
Near the end of the routine, there was one final step where she had to move backwards without turning around. She kept looking at the camera and matching the music instead of checking where her feet were landing. She took small backward steps exactly as practiced. On the last step, the heel of one shoe landed beyond the roof edge, and there was no roof beneath it. Her foot slipped away, and the rest of her body followed. She lost her balance and plunged nearly 60 feet into the apartment parking lot below, crashing onto the roof of an elderly woman's parked car before anyone could reach her. An elderly woman had just started her car and was preparing to leave for a doctor's appointment when Serafina crashed onto the roof above her. The impact crushed the roof and shattered the windshield, leaving the woman screaming in shock as residents rushed into the parking lot and called emergency services. Paramedics and police arrived within minutes, but Serafina had suffered catastrophic injuries and was pronounced dead at the scene. Officers later confirmed there was no safety gear, no harness, and that the group had been filming from a narrow maintenance ledge without proper fall protection. The elderly woman inside the car was treated for minor cuts from the shattered windshield and later released from hospital. Police also recovered the camera used to record the dance, and the footage was kept as evidence during the investigation. Serafina's boyfriend cooperated fully with investigators and was not charged. Authorities reminded the public that one small mistake at that height can end a life in seconds.
Serafina's story really shocked me. I can't imagine what her boyfriend and especially the elderly woman inside that car had to go through. Now, this next TikToker was the kind of person who believed in luck. But does luck really save you every time?
It was October 3rd, 2021. The night was calm in Brno, Czech Republic. Cars drove along the roads while people walked through the city center. Street lights were on as Cornelius and his friends met in an open area to record another TikTok stunt. Cornelius Whitlock was 25 years old. He worked at his parents' small cafe as the manager. His parents had owned the cafe for many years, but business became slow after new coffee shops opened nearby. Cornelius wanted to help, so he brought fresh ideas, changed the menu, made short videos, and posted them on TikTok every week. And hey, that's actually pretty smart marketing. Before making every stunt video, he always drank a cup of his family's special coffee for good luck. He called it his lucky drink, because every stunt seemed to bring more views and more customers to the cafe. The more things worked out for him, the more he believed luck was always on his side. His parents were happy the business was growing and thought he was only making harmless videos. They never knew how dangerous his stunts had become. As his audience grew, Cornelius kept chasing bigger ideas. One evening, he came across a video of someone performing a fire stunt while wearing protective clothing. He watched it several times before sending it to his friends. They immediately told him it was far too dangerous and urged him to forget about it. Cornelius laughed it off, joked that danger was his middle name, and insisted he could pull it off. Let me tell you something. When your friends tell you something is too dangerous, they aren't trying to hold you back. They're trying to keep you alive. But Cornelius believed luck had always protected him, and he saw no reason this time would be any different. Later that night, Cornelius packed cheap protective gear, lighter fluid, lighter towels, bottles of water, and blankets into his car before meeting his friends. They chose an empty open space away from buildings so they could film without people around them. One friend held the phone while another stood nearby with water and blankets. They checked the camera angle and counted down before recording started. Cornelius poured the flammable liquid onto parts of the protective clothing and lit it, but it didn't go as planned. Within seconds, flames shot across his chest, arms, and back before racing down his legs, quickly spreading beyond the areas he had expected to burn. The heat became far more intense than anyone imagined. Panicking, Cornelius screamed and ran across the open area as the flames continued to engulf him. The thing is, fire spreads, changes direction, and grows faster than people expect. And that's exactly what his friends were about to find out. His friends chased after him and finally caught him. One threw water over him while another wrapped him in blankets, burning his hands and forearms as he fought to smother the flames. They kept trying until the fire finally went out. One friend called emergency services while the other stayed beside Cornelius until help arrived. Paramedics treated him at the scene before taking him to hospital with severe burns covering most of his body. Doctors fought to save his life, but the injuries were too extensive. Cornelius remained in hospital for several days before later dying from complications caused by his burns. Fire investigators later concluded that the stunt quickly became uncontrollable because of the flammable liquid and the way the flames spread across his clothing. The friend who tried to save Cornelius was treated for burns to his hands and forearms before being released. Police recovered the phones used to film the stunt, and the footage was kept as evidence during the investigation. Cornelius's parents only learned what he had been trying to film after arriving at the hospital, where they stayed by his side until the very end. The last person I'm going to tell you about also kept the dangerous parts of his stunt from the people around him, but he told them after, not during. It was September 7th, 2020. The afternoon was warm in Ghent, Belgium. Birds could be heard around the neighborhood, while people worked in gardens, washed windows, and children rode bicycles along the quiet streets. 3 friends met beside a small house to film another stunt for their page. Cosmo Bramwell was 22 years old and worked at a local cinema. He still lived with his parents because he was their only child.
They always looked after him and gave him almost everything he needed while he helped around the house and went to work every day.
He did not have many big problems in life. After work, he spent most of his free time making short stunt videos with his friends. Ruben and Linus worked together at the same factory. After their shifts, they met with Cosmo to plan new videos. The 3 became known online for their simple but risky stunts, turning each one into a competition. Viewers voted for a winner after every challenge, and the first person to build a 5-win lead would be crowned champion. The series helped grow their page and brought in extra income. Cosmo's parents gave him everything he needed materially, but I believe they never realized he was chasing something money couldn't buy: the feeling of winning. As time went on, the group noticed other TikTok creators posting bigger, more creative stunts. Not wanting to fall behind, they decided their next challenge had to be more ambitious. That's one thing a lot of creators do every day. They look at what their competitors are doing and try to top it. And honestly, I get it. If your content is paying the bills, you're always looking for the next big idea. But what they chose to do next, that's the part I have a hard time understanding. They chose a jump that looked simple enough, leaping from the roof of a 1-story house onto a large trampoline below. They had already completed smaller jumps without problems, so they believed this one would be safe. After setting the trampoline in place, they checked their cameras and got ready to film. One phone sat on a tripod. Ruben held a second camera before his turn, while another phone was ready for slow motion. They lined up the trampoline with the edge of the roof. Large concrete blocks were stacked beside it, because building work had been happening around the house. Nobody moved them away before filming started, believing there was enough space. Linus climbed onto the roof first. He jumped down, landed near the middle of the trampoline, and finished with a flip before stepping away. Ruben climbed up next, jumped, landed in the middle, and stayed on his feet. Everyone moved aside for the last jump. Cosmo climbed onto the roof and stood near the edge, while Ruben counted down and Linus kept the camera on him. When the countdown reached 0, Cosmo bent his knees, pushed forward, and jumped off the roof. At first, the jump looked normal, his body staying upright as he dropped toward the trampoline. He was aiming for the middle, but drifted slightly to one side during the fall. Instead of landing in the center, both feet came down very close to the outer edge of the trampoline. The mat stretched hard on one side instead of bouncing him straight up, and his feet slipped as the edge dipped lower than the middle. The trampoline tilted under the force and threw his body sideways before he could regain footing. He traveled only a short distance through the air before striking a stack of concrete blocks left beside the trampoline, the side of his head hitting the sharp corner of one block with great force. The trampoline shook for a few more seconds while Ruben and Linus threw their cameras aside and ran to him. One called emergency services while the other stayed with him until paramedics arrived. He was rushed to hospital, but the head injury was too severe. Police later examined the area, spoke with witnesses, and reviewed the recorded videos. Investigators ruled the death an accidental fall after he missed the center of the trampoline during the stunt. The final video was never uploaded, and the friends quietly ended the challenge series after Cosmo's death. His parents later thanked everyone who had supported their son online and asked people to remember him for more than the stunt that took his life.
I'm not against TikTokers, but before you hit record or post the next video, think first. Some clicks just aren't worth the cost.